Well, my name is Ivan Tilney. I was born on the 29th of the 9th, 34. So I'm now 89, sorry. No, 89. And yes, I've been sort of winding down from my hobby, which was after gemstones and initially gold. And I've done a lot of cutting of gemstones, and I've done a lot of digging for gold. But found gemstones easier than what gold was, so eventually turned over more to gemstones than the gold. Then I gradually bought the machinery necessary to cut it and polish it. And I was lucky enough to find a place where there was varicite, which is a green-coloured stone. And I found and visited this station, which is up near Megathera, rather. And I got permission to go on the station. And I used to go with the wife, and we'd dig and scratch around. It had been worked years before. It had been worked. But like a lot of these places, they don't become economic. And so they wind down, and then people drop the lease. And if you're lucky, you can get on to the lease, find out where it is and get on to it. Well, I was born in Norfolk in a little village called Horsford, just about 7-8 miles outside Norwich, and I had two brothers. And as I said, my father was killed the Sunday before World War II broke out, and there was no family allowance in those days, so we sort of lived by the seat of our pants, more or less. But one thing that my father had done, he'd bought a piece of land about 3/4 an acre for £35. Don't get envious. £35 he paid for this 3/4 an acre land. And he bought a railway carriage and put on it. And the railway carriage, he then built 2 bedrooms out of timber and asbestos at the front. And at the rear, he had a friend of his from up the lane who was a bricklayer, bricked the kitchen on the back area of it. And that was all rendered round, so it all looked part and parcel of the same place. You didn't see the railway carriage at all. But that's where we started our life, where he started his life, and we followed. And we were sort of, Norwich got bombed quite heavily in 1942, but my father got killed, as I said, the Sunday before the war. And we were on holiday. He was coming down to join us and got killed on the way down there. And the first that I can remember in any relation to it is my grandfather taking me down the garden in his house and saying, "You won't see your daddy anymore. He's gone to heaven." And that was it just sticks in my mind. And the only other thing I can remember about my father is him holding me up in front of a mirror and putting a shaving stick across my face. Otherwise, I don't really have any memories of that part, and not from his point of view anyway. So we were sort of on our own from there. Mother was quite nervous at the time, and of all things, the doctor advised her to take up smoking for her nerves. That's how smoking was in those days. And anyway, she brought us up very well. We used to ride a bicycle. She would take me in a carry basket on the back of her bicycle to visit aunts, because she was one of nine children. And they all lived around about 7, 8, 9 miles around the district. And we would bike from one to the other and spend a day there or half a day and have a meal, and we always kept in touch. Grandfather Baker, as his name was, her name was Baker. He was something to do with the roads department, and so he was 82 when he died. But he was on the committee, something to do with committee. He used to hold meetings in Carnegie Hall in Norwich, and he was always a union man as well, which I was never a union man. But he was a union man too. And but grandfather Tilney, the Tilneys go back a long way. We trace us back to royalty. So Anne Boleyn, her mother was a Tilney, You've heard about her being topped. So that's where we come from initially. And if you trace it further, we're Anglo-Saxon, and they believe that we came up with the first Anglo-Saxons from Germany through to the UK, and the first mob to defeat the Romans in a battle, coming on the way up, somewhere on the way up. But I can't tell you much about that. Well, I mean, I went to Horsford, which was a church school in the village. It was the only school in the village. That's the school I went to until I was 11 years old, and then I went from there to Helston Secondary Modern School, which all my two other brothers, earlier brothers, they also went to. And that's where we did our schooling until my brother left school at 14 and started on the railway. He went as an apprentice in 1942 on the railway, and that particular year was when Norwich received its biggest pounding from bombs, and the centre of Norwich got wiped out, and with bombs and blasts and incendiary bombs and whatever. And we had 25 bombs in the village, and most of them went across the Meadows and didn't do any damage. One hit a house and killed an old lady, and we had 2 sea mines dropped in our village, and they were oblong ones, and I saw them because we had to get out of our house. They came and woke us about 6 o'clock in the morning and told us we'd got to get out of the house because we were in the area where if it went off, the blast would do damage to us, maybe kill us or something. And they came from London and defused the bombs around about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and they said if they'd have gone much longer, this one would have gone up. One did go up, but that was in a disused, it's not current use, a cornfield. There was no crop in it. That went off, but the blast went away from the village, but it still took all the windows out of the state housing, the council houses, if you like. And most of them lost their windows. The thing was 8 feet. I saw it after they'd been defused. It was at least 8 feet long and about that high. Came down on a parachute, and the other one must have been the same. As kids, we went over and saw the crater. It was big enough to put a double-decker bus in the crater. It was enormous. And of course, in those days of the war, there's 35 airfields in Norfolk. Most of them were bomber bases for the Yanks and that sort of thing. And so we had ample ammunition, and I mean we had ample ammunition from plane crashes and what have you. You could get hold of explosives easily, and we used to make our own fireworks. We'd pull a machine gun or a rifle bullet. We'd take the end of it out, take the cordite sticks out of it. My brother used to get a stuff which was like a plastic explosive, it looked rather like marzipan. And we could push this stuff down into the rifle bullet or the machine gun, put a couple of sticks of cordite, 3 sticks of cordite in the end of it, set light to it with a match and get out of the way. And that would burn this stuff down, and then when it got to the detonator, that would explode. They were our fireworks. The other ones, we would get smoke bombs. There was a rifle range up near, very close to the village, and they used to do manoeuvres and that up there. And we would find thunder flashes and smoke bombs still alive. And we would make our own smoke bombs out of them. We'd pull them to pieces and then roll them up in a piece of newspaper and set light to them with a bit of cordite again. You could start them off. And the smoke around them is terrible, and to get it in your lungs, make you cough and spit and splatter. And we let one off one day, and my mate's mother, she was hanging the washing out. Didn't go down very well at all. Yeah, but then one of the last things, we found a big thunder flash. It was a big white one, and we got some paper bags, and we put them down and lit them long, and the oldest one up, a mate of mine, put the end of it in until he got the fuse going. And when it started to hiss, he was like, "Yes, very good." I said, "Chuck it over the fence." And he did, and it went off in the cornfield. and we burnt big, a big area of the cornfield, yeah. But we jumped in there and we were doing this, you know, we're only kids with short pants on. And I shouted for the mates. One of the mates, his old man was over in the paddock. He must have heard the explosion anyway. Mr. Notley, the cornfield has caught fire. So he came round the course, jumped over a fence and jumped around there and pulled a branch out of the hedgerow and was beating it out. But we burnt an area about 100 metres wide, I think, big patch. Well, once you were 18, unless you were apprentice or something of this nature, once you were 18, you got called up for national service for 18 months initially, and then it went to 2 years finally. It was 2 years. So once I was 18, I was called to go to national service. I was an apprentice bricklayer at this stage, and I could have got a deferment. You could get a deferment if you were apprentice till you finished your apprenticeship, and then you had to go. And I used to have to go to tech 1 day a week and 2 nights a week. That meant biking 9 miles into the city for the evening. The tech was evenings, 2 nights a week, and 1 day. So I'd have to bike into the city and to do this sort of situation. And the firm I was working for used to pay you for the day. Once you got 18, they wouldn't pay you anymore. So I went down to see the governor of it was the biggest firm in the Norwich area, in the Norfolk area, and asked him if he would pay me to go, because my mother couldn't afford to be short of a bit of board money and the day's pay. And he said, if I did it for you, I'd have to do it for the others. So I said, well, buggy, then I'll break my apprenticeship, which is what I did. So I got called up at 18, and I decided that I would allow my mother. You only got a couple of quid a week when you went in the forces, and I'd been paying my mother £1 a week board out of my money, and I decided I would sign on for another year to get the extra money, and I decided to go in the engineers. So I signed on. You have to take a bit of an aptitude test to show you've got enough intelligence to go in, and that's where I went. I joined the engineers, and I went to do my first engineer training. I had to go through to the Malvern Hills in Worcestershire, which was one side of the country to the other. So I had to catch the train at Norwich station at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I travelled. I got into the Malvern Hills at 8 o'clock at night, and the army truck should have picked me up, and there was no one there, and the only man in the station was a station master sort of bloke wandering around the station, and he said, well, they won't be back here anymore today. I said, what the hell am I going to do? He said, where's this camp? And they said, the first thing you can do is there's a double-decker bus go here, go up into the Malvern Hills, tell him to put you off. You'll be able to see that it got nearly dark then. You'll be able to see the lights of the camp. He'll point them out to you down below. And you have to walk there from where this bus. So it was dark the time I got off this bus. He put me off in this place. And as soon as you got out of the bus, you couldn't see anything, could you? It was dark. There was trees around. You didn't know whether you had to turn off the walk. Anyway, I walked so far, and then I saw a house. So I thought, well, I'll go and ask the people if I'm on the right way. Where do I turn off or anything? So I knocked on the door, and this old couple come to the door, and they said, "No, you're on the right road. You'll see the lights if you keep walking far enough." And I eventually come to the camp, and they made temporary accommodation for me for the night. I went to the guard. They didn't even know I was bloody coming. So they put me up till the morning, and then they found me a bed and a place to sleep after that, and I started getting kitted out. We didn't do any training as such, not for about a week or 2 weeks, something like that. And we've just got all our kit, bedding, uniforms, boots, socks, you name it, everything that you needed. And we got 3 meals a day, of course. And during that time, sweets came off the ration because I know they gave us a sweet ration document. And we all went down to Nappy and spent the bloody lot of it, you know. So that was my first introduction to the army, and naturally enough, first meal was sausage and mash for breakfast with porridge first of all, and then sausage and mash. Next thing was jabs. We got 5 jabs. Yeah, you just go down. There's an orderly either side of you, and they give you 2 in this side and 3 in this side, and then they say, well, so that your arms don't get stiff, you can go swimming. So we had a swimming pool there. We went swimming in the swimming pool. And we were there getting the rest of our kit and getting it all sorted out for a couple of weeks, I think. Then we went to Worcestershire, and there they loaded us on trucks, took us to Worcestershire, this training camp, and we done square bashing there for 6 weeks. And then we got on a train and we went through to Farnborough. And we weren't actually at Farnborough, Cove Camp, that was near Farnborough. And that's where we done 16 weeks basic training, and then we were doing mines, watermanship, bridging, you name it. We were blowing up steel girders to practice the explosives, how to lay the charges and that sort of thing, how to dismantle the mine, how to pull, pressure, release and delay were all the fuses that you could use. You know, someone step on something and step off it and that'll go up, and, you know, all these types of explosives. So that was our main thing. Knots and lashings, shears and gins, which is a matter of making lifting equipment out of any timber that might bear trees. You could cut them down and you could make a shear or a gin that could move things like this or move them sideways, and elementary things that you could always use something to get over a problem. And that was what we basically trained on, together with, as I said, the mines and demolitions. They were the main thing. Watermanship, that was another thing. We had to learn how to manoeuvre boats on water and how to manoeuvre bridges, like Bailey bridges, floating pontoon bridges and all this sort of thing. So we had to learn the components of that. I mean, you don't learn it all at once, but you learn the basic instructions of it. And from then on, you're doing that your whole army life. You're doing it over them things to keep you fine-tuned and improve. As you see, that bridge we were putting over there in Holland, and that was a massive affair, and I didn't see the finish of it. But we went on, in Germany, we went on bridging gallops. The RAC would carry the components of the bridge, and they take it to some river place in Germany, and they would deposit the equipment, and there'd be a river there. You'd put the bridge across the river, drive over, drive back again, pull it down, and another one, a bridging gallop. So you went and you might do a dozen or so bridges in a short period of time, you know. Camp in the bush, wherever you were. Map reading courses, all sorts of things of that nature. I went to Korea in 52. That would have been, I went in the August the 12th, I left England to go to Korea in 52. And I would have volunteered about 6 months before that. And what was I doing at the time? I'm not sure. But I got a bit fed up with square bashing and stuff like that, you know, and no particular reason, just a change. Yeah, so I didn't get taken that time. First time I volunteered, I didn't get any reply. That's why I went to Holland with the whole regiment up and went to Holland. I think the regiment next door came as well. There was 3-6 and 3-7 regiments side by side, engineers. And I think we were building from one side of the river and they were building from the other. But I'm not sure of that. It's a long while ago. Anyway, we went initially, they billeted us on on a big expanse of gauze and common, like a big common. And then they had several fires, so they decided that it was too dangerous for us to be on that particular camp area. And we went down, they built it up, they put all tents up on the side of the river right beside where the bridge was being built. So that was much better. And that was near, at 40 kilometres from a place called Venlo, was the township. There was still a Bailey Bridge across the river there from World War II. So that had been put up during the actual war. And that was still being used, that Bailey Bridge. That was a double anyway. Normally a Bailey Bridge is just one single section of bridge held with pins and that sort of thing, and sway braces to start with sort of doing this business. And but then if they wanted stronger, they put two panels side by side and three. In the case of the one we were building over the Mars there, it was 4 panels side by side and 3 sections of that, one on top of the other. It was a massive bridge, 1,600 feet long, I think, or something like that. Yeah. And they have to put a launching nose on the front. That means they cant the nose of the bridge up like that, so that the weight of the bridge will pull it down. So it's doing this. So the launching nose sticks up like that, so that it'll go onto the rollers that takes the weight the other side of the river. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get it onto the bank. It would be dropping into the river under its own weight. So you put that and get it, and then it'll pull itself up. Well, I can tell you what it was when we went to Kuri in Japan, first of all, on the ferry. There's a photograph of the ferry, I think, in that magazine. We went on the ferry, and they took us to Kuri, and part of went to battle school. Part of our group went to battle school. I was sent straight out to Korea. I had about 5 days in Kuri or something like that. And then we got on the Isang, which is a bit of a furphy of a boat, carried us across to Korea. And we were in a camp there for about 4 days, maybe 5 days. We were able to go swimming, actually. And then we went by rail right up to Seoul. And from Seoul, we stayed a night in Seoul. And then the trucks took us to the front. And it was about 40 kilometres or so, I think, to the front from Seoul. And they were all dirt roads. I read this afterwards. I don't know. Certainly, don't remember ever riding on a bitumen road. They were all dirt roads. And I read in the book there was only 7 kilometres of bitumen at that time in Korea. The rest was all just dirt roads like we have here in the bush. And so they were pretty. There was a speed limit of 15 miles an hour. That can be pretty boring. That's what the speed limit was. And where our camp was, you could see the Imjim River, the bend. You could see the bend in the Imjim from where we were. And as I said, we were in tents to start with. And there was a searchlight just only a few metres away from the tents, from our tent. And you get, when that's running, you got a bloody generator going all the time. But they would shine that on the clouds, and that would reflect and shine over a big area, so you could see what was going on the flats and that sort of thing, you know. So that's how that part what it was from there. And we didn't have anything much in the way of showers or anything like that. Initially, we didn't have very little facilities in that sort of setup. And then I remember in the winter time there, we were breaking ice up and taking it. We had what they called chuffers. They were American stoves, and there was a 20-litre jerry can of petrol would be sandbags outside the window, and the pipe would lead into this chopper, and the petrol would run into the bottom, and that would just burn in the bottom. And someone had to control the fuel running in, because otherwise it'd go red hot up the chimney and set like the bloody tent, where the food tents go up, because the chimney set fire to the tent up the top, where it goes out the top, you know. So eventually they banned us using petrol, and we had to go using diesel. And you'd have diesel, you get diesel bloody oil from, you know, and you get diesels.
The fumes.
Fumes and the bloody oil. It would, where you breathe, you get it around your nose, you know, just sort of sooty, dirty, sooty stuff around you. That's from off the bloody fumes of the diesel, you know. And in the winter time, when you had a single sleeping bag during the summer, but you had a double. You put one inside the other during the winter because it's so bloody cold. Can't believe how cold it is. And there'd be frost down here in the morning. It'd be frost. You'd have a hood come up to here, and you didn't have I don't think we had a mattress. We had just a spring, like a normal bed sort of thing, cot sort of thing for a bed. And your sleeping bag just laid on there. And for a locker, we had an orange box turned on its side, up on its end rather, and a couple of shelves in it. And you put your gear in there, and you just held it. I forget what it was, a piece of cloth down the front to keep it private, like, you know. No doors on. No, there weren't any doors on, anything like that. But you all had to trust one another, didn't you? And you did, I mean. Peacekeeping, yeah. So we supplied the whole of the Commonwealth Division with water. So they controlled the water point. There was water runs down from the Kamaksan, which is the highest mountain in South Korea. The water runs down from there, and there's like a biggest creek runs from the bottom, and one troop of engineers would be operating the water point. They'd be purifying, making sure the water was clean, collecting it, and then that would be taken to all the regiments in a truck. And then in the summertime, we'd have these big cloth bags would hang from a brace. So you might have half a dozen of these big cups holding water. You could go and get yourself a cup of water if you wanted, something like that. The cookhouse was derived of, we had a big sort of Nissen hut, really big spaced Nissen hut, and it had wooden tables and stuff inside there. But the cooks cooked on, it was like a channel built up with blocks and stuff, and then a top on it, and a big blow lamp blowing through there to cook the breakfast and the rest of the grub on. They obviously had smaller ones that you could cook a pot on or something like that, but the main one, and there'd be trays on there when you went in the mornings. There'd be a big tray on there with all eggs, pan fried, and sausages. So one day you would have egg and sausage, the next day you'd have egg and bacon, next day you'd have sausage and bacon. Those three items went round and round. And you could have a bit of muesli, that sort of thing, you know. And that was your breakfast. That was the same almost every morning, just recycling. They all came out of tins. They'd be full of fat. There'd be that much grease in the tins when they took the top off. They'd be packed, and you had to take Paladrin tablets for anti-malaria. So that everyone had to take a Paladrin. It was a chargeable offence not to take a Paladrin, because it would keep malaria. The bug could be in you, so they told us. You could get bitten by a malaria-carrying bug. The bug would stay in you, but a Paladrin would keep it from coming out. If you got malaria, it was a chargeable offence. So that meant you'd be in trouble. And then you took a salt tablet every day, because they're extremely hot in the summer, just the same as certain Australian areas, you know. And so what else did we get? The Yanks used to supply us with a lot of tucker. The breakfast was always supplied, I think, from the Palms. But we'd get a chicken or something, or a turkey went now and again from the Yanks. They generally, and we get ice cream from the Yanks. Yeah. The colour of today's ice cream is so-and-so. At ease disease, there's malaria in the area. Have you taken your Paladrin? we used to get Yankee radio, you know. We're riding down out these Korean hills to bring you Commonwealth Chorale. Yeah, well, I started working myself. Then I started to the first job I picked up was from a Jew. Funny enough, an old Jew boy, and he'd started to have a house done. He bought a block of land, and he wanted this house built on it. I don't know how I got onto him. I'd done it one or two individual ones before when I got onto him, and anyway, I built the footings round, and he came on the weekend that we built it and ready to concrete it on the next following week, ready to concrete the footings, and he came on the Friday. It's the first time he'd been up that we'd been. He said, "What do you call that?" I said, "Well, Mr. Sewell," I said, "that's your house." "I don't want that. It's a bloody doll's house," he said. I said, "Well, that's your plan. That's what you laid out for your house." "Well, I'm not having that," he said. "I'll have to do something about that," he said. So he went and delayed us. He went and got another area added on the plans before we could carry on anymore. He had to get this plan passed to put an extra area on. But he turned out to be a good old boy. I'd done a lot of work for him in the finish. He had a cafe in Norwich and right near the shoe factories, and the shoe girls all used to go in there to get their cups of tea and whatever. He would sell them lipstick and bloody stockings. He would go down to Sunday. He'd go down to London to the Jewish market down Petticoat Lane, and they'd buy gear down there and come and sell it in the city. So I'd done a few jobs for him, but life can be colourful sometimes. Eventually, I started because I'd done his job for him. I took somebody else's on as well, and I began to do individual jobs for individual people. And after I'd run one or two, I was able to get the House Builders Registration Board come and have a look at what I'd done, and they agreed to register me as a builder. And so I got registration. I've always done my own thing. That's really at the end of the day. I've not ignored other people. Don't get me wrong. I've not only if I've just decided that's not right for me. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you have only yourself to blame if things don't work out. I do a good job. I did do a good job, yeah. And I was good at what I did. And I knew I was good at what I did. What else can you do better than that, you know? I mean, you're satisfied with yourself. Other people are satisfied. What better can you look for than that, you know? And you're generally contented with what you do. At the end of the day, you have to make your own judgment on what you do and everything. Some things go wrong. Most go right.